You're listening to the Legal Talk Network.
Hello, I'm Monica Bay.
And I'm Bob Ambrogi.
We've been writing about law and technology for more than 30 years.
That's right. During that time, we've witnessed many changes and innovations.
Technology is improving the practice of law, helping lawyers deliver their services faster and cheaper,
which benefits not only lawyers and their clients, but everyone.
And moves us closer to the goal of access to justice for all.
Tune in every month as we explore new legal technology and the people behind the tech.
Here on Law Technology Now.
Welcome to Law Technology Now on the Legal Talk Network. This is your host, Bob Ambrogi. And today we're going to be talking about the upcoming ABA TECHSHOW, which is going to be March 15th through 18th in Chicago. And to help us do that, we have the chair of ABA TECHSHOW, Adriana Linares. Adriana, welcome to Law Technology Now.
Thanks, Bob. I wish sometimes we had video so you could see my eyes get big and my smile get huge as you introduced me.
That's how I feel when I introduce you, too.
Thanks. No, I'm excited to be here. Thanks.
Good. Yeah. Well, thanks for doing this. So, first of all, I am going to just ask people, because not everybody in the world knows who you are. I think most people do. But just quickly, who are you and what do you do?
Oh, that's a good question, because I would assume that most people have no idea who I am. So let's definitely start there. So my name is Adriana Linares. I'm based in Orlando, but I like to say that I live in New Orleans because I spend a lot of time there. But I really spend probably most of my time on an airplane, flying around the country, helping law firms with their technology. So my day-to-day business is as a legal technology consultant, helping law firms better use their technology and doing a lot of training with the technology that they have in place.
And as we're recording this, you're recovered from Mardi Gras? Still recovering?
I'm glad you gave me an opportunity to say that I don't normally sound this sexy. But after 2 weeks in New Orleans for Mardi Gras, I think it finally caught up to me. And I keep saying I've got to get the Mardi Gras out of my system. So I came home to Orlando for about a week before going back to New Orleans because it's St. Patrick's Day. And yes, I'm in Orlando today. And it's beautiful, and I am recovering from Mardi Gras.
I'm not going to comment on whether you normally sound sexy because my wife might be listening to this program. But so TECHSHOW is coming up in just a few days, really, coming up very soon. And again, I can't imagine there's anybody listening to this show that doesn't know what ABA TECHSHOW is. But give us the overview. What is ABA TECHSHOW?
Yeah. You know, I'm bummed out a little bit that it's going to happen in a few days because it's been so fun planning it. And TECHSHOW has been something that I have volunteered hours of my life with for many, many years. And it's, in my opinion, the best legal technology conference that lawyers and legal professionals can attend. It's a 2.5-day conference full of CLEs and a giant vendor hall with lots of vendors that sell services to legal professionals or products or tools. And we have about 8 or 9 CLE tracks. And of course, there's lots of extracurricular activities, networking events and group dinners and stuff like that. So in a nutshell, it's a great technology conference for lawyers who are interested in learning more about how technology can help with their practices. And it's not always just technology, I should say that. We strive to include other parts of practice management that don't necessarily mean strictly technology. So there's marketing education, there's accounting and finance education and management sessions as well. So we try to really cover the full gamut of practice management.
Who's it for? What kind of lawyers should attend TECHSHOW?
Well, in my opinion, and I've been involved with TECHSHOW for probably 12 or 13 years, there's not a single lawyer you could put in front of me and the agenda for TECHSHOW that I couldn't put them in at least 5, 6, or 7 useful CLE educational classes or sessions. And I really mean that because my experience in working with lawyers has been from, I have a husband and wife team in McCook, Nebraska, all the way to international law firms where I've been to, Spain and Argentina to do training and work. So to me, I don't care if you're an attorney, a solo practitioner sitting in a small town or a big time attorney in the corner office overlooking Central Park. Any attorney or secretary or paralegal could attend TechShow and without a doubt find value in the educational content there.
So what's different this year, if anything? And maybe that's not even a fair question because maybe we don't want anything to be different. It's been a successful formula for years, but I know you, and I know you like to sometimes shake things up a little bit. So is there anything different this year about TechShow?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of great additions to the already sort of template that's been laid out. So this is the 31st year for TechShow. So for 30 years previous, TechShow has been very successful, one of the biggest technology conferences, one of the biggest conferences for lawyers altogether. And we added a few new and interesting things. And I could turn the microphone and ask you to tell us about one of my favorite things that we've added this year, which is the Startup Pitch and Startup Alley, where you helped us, Bob, thank you so much for helping with this too, solicit RFPs or sort of pitches from new startups that are gearing their services or their tools toward legal. And we did a little competition. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the competition?
Yeah, well, we actually, I'm glad you asked. We did sponsor a competition. We asked companies to submit pitches. We ran an online voting, actually, through the blog Above the Law. We put up all these pitches online, got people to vote on them.
Thousands of people too, right? We were all shocked at how much
we got a lot of
traffic,
votes.
how much
We got a
interest
lot of
there
votes.
was. We did. It was awesome.
Yeah. And out of that, we selected the 12 companies that got the most votes. And those 12 companies are going to be, were offered and will be exhibiting in a special startup alley in the exhibit hall. So there's the special portion of the exhibit hall will be reserved for these startups. And in addition to that, on the first night, on Wednesday, March 15th, during the reception on the opening night in the exposition hall, we're going to have a little bit of a pitch competition among these 12 companies. We're calling it kind of a March Madness pitch competition. We're going to play off the March Madness theme and do a little bit of a bracketed pitch competition in a couple of rounds. And the audience there will then pick the startup that they think is kind of the most innovative and most interesting of the lot. And that winner will get a package of prizes that include some free advertising and some other things. So kind of excited about that.
Yeah, no, me too. I love the startups, but being a legal technologist, I have to, right? Because watching the technologies and the tools and the services that these companies are constantly developing, whether they actually fly or die, it doesn't matter. Just watching it, the ideas sort of develop and whether there's interest in them or not is very exciting to me. So I'm very excited about Startup Alley and the pitch. And I want to make sure to thank you again and again for being so...
Yeah, I also want to give a shout out there to the people at Evolve Law who've also been really helpful in... and at Above the Law and Evolve Law have both been very helpful in doing that. And the Evolve Law people are going to help in the presentation of it at TechShow.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that's a little different about TechShow this year is we tried to invite a lot of outside and different collaborators and partners to help us bring some new and exciting things to TechShow. So definitely having Evolve Law, Above the Law, and then, of course, you, an entity of yourself, help us with Startup Alley, and the pitch was really, really exciting. And then two, we have a hackathon that'll be happening all during TechShow. And for that, we got in touch with the Tech for Justice group, who regularly organize legal hackathons around the country. And they helped us organize, and they're going to start a couple days in advance. They're going to start with a virtual hackathon to get the work going. But during TechShow and what is known as Salon B, anyone who is at TechShow can enter that area and either contribute ideas or thoughts or help the coders and the developers and the advocates that are going to be there developing tools for veterans. So every hackathon tends to have a purpose that it's serving, domestic violence victims, landlord-tenant issues. But in this case, where they decided to go with veterans issues because Linda Klein, who's the current president of the ABA, it's one of her, big-hearted efforts. So that's going to be another exciting and cool thing that lawyers will get to learn a little bit more about, and how even lawyers, whether they aren't very technically inclined or know much about technology, can contribute to a hackathon, because we need their knowledge. We need their ideas. We need them to say, well, if I was a lawyer helping a veteran and I was helping him with this issue, but I wanted to help him with that issue, is there a way I could use technology to somehow make these things easier? So the hackathon is another really cool and exciting thing that's being sponsored by Thomson Reuters, which they were so generous with their sponsorship dollars, so excited about the hackathon that I definitely want to make sure and thank them out loud.
Now they're a legal technology company. I haven't heard of them before.
Right, just a wee tiny.
I'm kidding, Thomson Reuters. And another thing that's a little bit different this year is the way the keynote is being presented. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, I'm happy to tell you about that. That was not necessarily This was not necessarily the easiest thing to get sort of approved and passed the elders of TechShow, if you will. So generally what we have done every year at TechShow is we bring in a big name, or either a big name or a really important person, and it's usually one person who gives a keynote talk, and they've all been amazing. Yeah, I mean, there's no shortage. If you go back and look at the history of keynote speakers for TechShow, they've all been really impressive, very good. And
Cindy Cohn from EFF last year was fantastic.
She was amazing, and I really felt we should have handed out diapers before that session even started, because I know everyone left there like, oh my God.
Yep.
Right. So she talked about security issues. And we also had in a keynote plenary last year, Edward Snowden's attorneys from the ACLU come on and talk about privacy issues in a modern era and the things that lawyers should know about. So again, we get great speakers. And this year, I really wanted to address sort of the big elephant in the room, which is these new and alternative legal service providers like Rocket Lawyer, Avo, and LegalZoom. I work a lot with lawyers all the time, and I constantly am being told by lawyers that they hate those companies, but they never actually know why they hate them. And they say things like, they're taking our work, they're taking our jobs away. But if you actually learn how those companies are able to be successful, especially now that many of them are sort of creating networks for lawyers and referral services or match services, whatever you want to call them, there's something to be said about a lawyer who maybe is a new lawyer or a new solo and finding different resources for client development. And I really wanted to give those companies a fair chance to talk out loud and freely about how they work with lawyers and actually need lawyers as part of, the way they do business and the type of technology that they're developing, and how they're actually, in a weird way, addressing the access issue. And they're doing a better job at addressing the access issue than many other groups and organizations, because, they're uninhibited by rules and regulations, and they have funding. And I just think it's also interesting. So we invited the 3 CEOs of those companies, John Suh from LegalZoom, Mark Britton from Avo, and Charlie Moore from Rocket Lawyer, to come and have a really frank and open discussion with 2 moderators who are 2 incredible women in the legal profession. Paula Frederick is the counsel at the State Bar of Georgia and very heavily involved with the ABA. And Judy Perry Martinez was the chair of the report on the future of legal services. Yeah.
Yep. and Paula was on that. Paula Frederick was on that commission as well. Yep.
So I asked them if they'd be interested in moderating this discussion. And what I don't want it to be, and I'm pretty sure it will not become, is just a sludge fest at these companies. I really want lawyers to just leave the room going, oh, maybe these companies aren't so bad. And, maybe there's an opportunity there. So that's what we're doing. Instead of one single keynote, I'm calling it a keynote plenary. And I really want everyone in the room to have an open mind, and maybe we still end up throwing rotten tomatoes at them up there, and that's okay. But I've done my part, which is at least try to sway some minds in a different direction. And that's really what I'm hoping we can do. I think it'll be well received. I'm getting a lot of, this is going to be great, sounds so interesting, and we'll see what happens.
Well, I think a lot of lawyers don't realize that those 3 companies, they see those companies as providing, direct-to-consumer legal advice and legal documents and legal services. They don't realize that those 3 companies are driving huge amounts of business to lawyers. And it's not just about self-help legal services or something like that.
And you know why I think it is that most lawyers don't realize this? And again, remember, I do a lot of field work, right? So I'm always talking to lawyers and associations and bar associations. And I've decided there's 2 reasons why I think most lawyers don't realize that those companies partner with other lawyers. And the first one is, I think the lawyers who are actually part of the system, that get the work and the clients from these companies, don't want to wave a big giant flag to their bar associations, because a lot of the bar associations, don't like what these companies do. And you get in this whole fee sharing thing and it becomes a big issue. So because it continues to happen, many of them just sit there quietly, taking the work, making the money, and they're happy about it. They don't tell anybody. And then I think the other thing is too, that those lawyers are actually making a lot of money. And I think they also don't want people to know.
Yep.
So I think it's really interesting. And I just hope to open some minds and get some answers and make people think a little bit differently, if we can.
Yeah, I think it sounds great. I think it'll be a really interesting program, and the moderators are perfect, I think. I think they'll challenge those panelists, and I think the panelists will respond in suit and in kind.
I agree.
I think they're.
Yeah.
I think it's a great group, and I don't think I've ever seen those three on stage together. I'm quite sure I've never seen those three on stage together. So that'll be an interesting panel.
Yeah, and they're all friends of mine, on top of just being someone we invited. And I know them all personally, and they're really great, smart people. So I think the conversation will be lively and fun. I asked them, I said, I don't want this to be dry and boring. Let's make fun. Let's have some fun. Let's take some questions and really make this a fun conversation to be a part of.
So something else that you're doing for the first time this year, I think, if I understand it right, is an academic track.
Yes, I was hoping you would ask about that one next.
Well,
so
okay.
Last year at
Here it
Tech
is.
Show,
I'm asking.
Here it is. It's like we planned it, but we didn't. That's what's so funny.
But we didn't.
Last year at Tech Show, when I was the vice chair under Steve Best, who did such a great job and was so fun to work with, a couple of the professors that regularly come to Tech Show approached me and said, "Hey, why don't you do something with the Academy next year?" I said, okay. I'm a yes woman. Anybody who comes to me with something that's even a halfway decent idea that I think would make something like Tech Show better, yes, okay, that sounds great. So we worked very hard with Michael Roback from UMKC Law and Faye Jones from Illinois and Urbana Law. It's complicated. But Faye and Michael helped us. Actually, they've done all the work, to be honest. Organize an academic track. And the goal here was to bring law school faculty into a workshop-like environment where we're going to start the conference on Thursday morning. So the academic track runs Thursday and Friday of Tech Show, with the goal at the end of Friday being, if we were going to have a template to start with for what a practice management curriculum would look like in a law school, what could it look like? So they have individual sessions themselves in the academic track, but then part of what they baked into the programming was actually going out and attending sessions that are relevant to law schools and faculty, and talking to vendors in the hall, and really getting a better feel for what practice management means and why it's so important to start teaching it in law school, because as we all know, they don't. And as a whole, I mean, there's obviously a few schools that do, but as a whole, it's not part of a standard curriculum. And they're very excited about that. And they even have one co-session that they're doing with the incubator consortium that's being held at the exact same time, I think at the University of Texas in Austin. No, not in Austin. Maybe it's in Austin. So we're even doing a webcast with that group to get more ideas and for them to work on that curriculum of what it might look like. So it'll be a work in progress, but I'm really excited about it.
And is that something that's open to anybody who's a tech show, or is do you have to be an academic or something like that to go to?
No, and I think it's a lot like the hackathon, right? If you just have a bunch of academics sitting in there, they're not going to think outside the box very far. They're not going to get very far. So again, encouraging anyone who has an interest in what the law schools are doing to go in there and listen in, pitch some ideas. I think, what more and more law schools need to hear is their alumni saying, well, you gave me a law degree. I earned a law degree, I should say. I earned a law degree, but you didn't really prepare me for what real life lawyering was going to be like, because I have no idea how to run my business. And I think that's important. So anyone can pop in at any time during the hackathon or the academic track and learn or contribute.
Great. One of the things I always look forward to at Tech Show are the Taste of Techshow dinners.
Yeah.
And I can even put in a plug here because I am actually co-hosting one with the Legal Talk Network, the host of this show. Adam Cameras, CEO of the Legal Talk Network, and I are going to be co-hosting one of these
Awesome.
Taste of Tech Show dinners on Friday night, where we're going to be talking about, guess what?
Podcasts?
Podcasting. You got it. So anybody who's interested in finding out about that should come to that. But do you want to tell the listeners a little bit more about what the Taste of Tech Show dinners are all about?
Yes, I would love to, because those were my babies when I was on the Tech Show board many years ago. So what happens to Tech Show attendees is they either come in a group, so they always have somebody to hang out with, or they often come alone, and they're either sent by their law firm. Law firm will have one budget, they'll send one person, or they're a solo, or they're just coming to a conference. They think they're coming to a boring old technology conference because they need either CLE or they need the information that the conference is giving. And so what Tech Show used to have was these sign-ups for these dine-outs. So if you were there by yourself, you could sign up and Tech Show would make a reservation for 10 or 12 people at a restaurant. And you'd say, okay, well, I'm here by myself. I've never been to Chicago. I'll go to this restaurant with these strangers. And they were great. I mean, it was fine. But a few years ago, I added a little element to that. And I said, why don't we ask our speakers if any of them would be interested in being sort of the host and picking a topic that they're passionate about, like you guys are doing with podcasting, and adding a layer of why you would go to dinner with this group. So before, it was just either the restaurant that you would see on the list or maybe a couple names that you recognized. So now when you walk, when you don't walk up, we actually have it all signed up via the web through some Eventbrite pages. Now you have the choice of, do I want to go to dinner with Bob Ambrogi because I love his podcast and he's amazing? Do I want to learn more about podcasts? Or have I always wanted to eat at this restaurant in Chicago? So that's essentially all it is. It's a Dutch treat dinner. Everybody does end up paying their own way, but it just adds this cool element of, there's a speaker I'd like to get to know better. There's a speaker whose brain I want to pick. I mean, it's a lot of free consulting. By the way, that's something I should mention. It's a lot of free consulting you can get at the ABA Tech Show because there are so many experts who are there absolutely willing to give all this information. So the dinners can be a good way to do that. But generally, after the first 20 minutes or so, conversations just become regular dinner conversation. And people who were strangers at the start of Tech Show become friends. And it's one of my favorite things that we've developed over the years at Tech Show. It's really popular, and we sell out those dinners. There's never spaces left. So I think those are great, really fun.
And maybe this isn't true this year, but insiders tip in past years, and I hope this is still true, some of these dinners end up getting sponsored, right? So
Yes.
Sometimes, although they're Dutch treat, if you pick them right, sometimes you get a free meal out of it as well as...
Yeah, that's true. So we get sponsors for some of the dinners, and they'll either, put in a big chunk toward the overall bill, or sometimes they do cover the whole thing. And that's not all of them. But Definitely, you're right. Little secret there. If you pick the right one, especially if it's a smaller group or something. And then sometimes you just get someone who joins the group and decides they're just going to buy dinner because it was so worth it. So it's pretty cool. They're very organic and really fun. And I know I enjoy them every year.
Yeah. So for any listeners wanting to sign up, as Adriana said, you got to sign up for those things in advance. They fill up fast, and you can just go to techshow.com and there's a sign up. There's a list of all the dinners and all the topics and
the hosts.
Sign up right there, and the restaurants and everything else that they're going to be at. So
Yep, definitely.
All right. So is there going to be any programming at this conference? Or,
Those boring CLE sessions? No, I always say that at the core of what makes Tech Show so amazing is the fact that there's 2.5 days of, I think this year we have something like 70 sessions. So we have 9 tracks, and I can rattle them off real quick so people get a good feel for, there's a whole track on cybersecurity, the business of law, do-it-yourself, check your technology, marketing in the media, project and process management, advanced IT, innovative lawyers, modern e-discovery, money matters. So there's a range there, again, going back to what I said when we first started, which is it's not strictly about technology. This conference is really a huge push to helping lawyers figure out how to run their businesses better, encompassing all the aspects of a law practice. Lots of good programming, and we have great speakers. We have a lot of new speakers. One of the things that I did, which was not very popular with everyone, but I'm never out to do something to win a popularity contest, for sure. What we tend to do, and I think any organization and conference tends to do this, is we always pick from the same tree. So for many years, there are speakers that have been invited to speak and part of Tech Show for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, sometimes 12 years in a row. So I looked at the board this year. And by the way, I have a great board, and I should mention how hard everyone worked. It's not just me. There's 9 other members of the board. They're all listed on techshow.com. And said, I think it would be fair if anyone who has spoken for 5 years in a row or more at that point, we just gave them a rest this year. Let's find some new faces and really try to sort of stir up the mix on the faculty. And we did that successfully. And I'm also pretty sure, I haven't done a count lately, but last I looked, we have more female speakers than male speakers. I'm going to have to go back and do a count to make sure, but I worked very hard.
I heard a rumor that you were pushing for all female speakers.
I really wanted all females. Wouldn't that have been awesome? And, the reason behind that is I'm regularly hearing, and not just with Tech Show, but I attend and get involved with a lot of other conferences. When people talk about diversity issues, they say, well, that's just the demographics of the profession. And I call bullshit on that, because I go to all these conferences and I see amazing speakers of every walk of life. And I think, again, what happens when people are planning conferences, whether it's something as big as Tech Show or a local bar association doing a conference, is you stick with what's familiar and what you hear about. So I really challenged the board this year to do a lot of research and find some new people, especially if we can include diverse people, however you'd like to define diverse. I think we've done a good job of that. And all women would have been awesome. And we could have done it. I'll tell you right now, we really could have. But then a bunch of guys started getting mad. Said, all right, fine.
Guys can be that way,
I know. I said, all right, we'll let a couple guys in. And I wasn't doing it because I'm some sort of, a super feminist or anything. I was just trying to change things up and invite some new people into the faculty and into the family and give other really qualified people an opportunity to shine.
Well, it's great. Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to the programming. I've gone through and looked at the list of programs and the speakers, and it really looks like an interesting lineup this year. So I know I'm looking forward to it.
Great.
Anything else that we haven't talked about that we should be talking about?
Let's see. We've got some of the regular stuff. So, of course, the Law Practice Division has a great publishing division, or part of the division. So we'll have lots of books available. And if you go to techshow.com, everywhere that there was a session where we've in the past published a book or recently published a book that's relevant to this session, we have a book recommendation link there. So I know a lot of us still like books. So the books are a big part of Tech Show. We have a bookstore there where we try to really encourage people to continue their educational exercises long after leaving Tech Show. So lots of books. We've got plenty of social events. There's a reception on Wednesday, an opening reception in the Expo Hall. There's Thomson Reuters is throwing a big party for us on Thursday night like they do every year. And the theme is going to be New Orleans. Awesome. I said, can we have a Mardi Gras theme? And they said, Mardi Gras is going to be over. I said, but Mardi Gras is actually never over in New Orleans. And they said, okay, we'll do, I think they're calling it a Ragin' Cajun. So that'll be really fun. The food will be geared sort of Cajun and Mardi Gras style or New Orleans style. So that's great. And then Friday, we're going to have Linda Klein, the president of the ABA, give a talk about women in law and in legal technology. So that'll be cool. And Rocket Lawyer every year does this comedy and cocktails event, which is always well received and funny. So, if nothing else, Tech Show, there's lots of free spirits, if you will. And of course, a lot of great people to meet. Oh, and we've got communities. That's another new thing we're doing this year. We really wanted to make it easy for attendees to identify their peers. So if you're a solo, if you're a litigator, if you're a Mac lawyer, we're making it easier to identify each other by giving out little badges for your name tags. And then some of our sponsors are going to be giving away sort of spirit scarves. So I encourage you that if you're at Tech Show and you are a Mac lawyer and you see someone else with a Mac lawyer badge, you just say, hey, I'm a Mac lawyer too. And immediately there's a connection there. And I hope conversations start flowing about the different ways that people are using technology to enhance their practices and sharing those ideas and tips and tools.
Anyone who mentions this podcast can get in for half off, right?
Oh, that would be so awesome. The chair can't even really comp people. That's one of the funniest things.
I tried. Okay.
I know.
Just thought I could slip that in.
But you should come. And the Expo Hall is free. So even if you're in the Chicago area, and I realize that Tech Show might be a little expensive for some people, which it's really not that bad. If I've got the pricing here somewhere. So let's see. At this point, standard price after early bird is $1,000.50, but the expo hall is free. So if you're in the greater Chicago area and you really just kind of want to come and mingle and meet people and get into the expo hall where we have events happening, that's free. You just register for a free expo hall and check things out, and you sort of get swept into the energy of Tech Show, and it's worth it.
And you can get a single day pass, right, for a lot less money. And if you're an ABA Law Practice Division member, you can get in for less money.
That's right. So LP Division members are $850, and then a standard ABA member is $950, and then a standard, you're not a member of anything, you're paying $1,050. But the day passes are about $395. Totally worth it. Every penny.
Yeah. All right. Well, Adriana, I really appreciate your taking the time to come on Law Technology Now today and tell us all about ABA Tech Show.
I appreciate you having me on here, Bob. It's always so fun chatting with you, and I will see you there at Tech Show.
You'll see me there, and you'll see the Legal Talk Network people will be there as well, as they often are, I think. So they'll probably be set up recording there as well. So
yes, they will, for sure.
People who are fans of the Legal Talk Network and enjoy podcasting at all ought to be sure to be there, if nobody else. But
absolutely.
All right. I will see you very soon.
Sounds great, Bob. Thanks so much.
Thanks a lot. And to all of our listeners, thanks a lot. This is Law Technology Now. This is Bob Ambrogi. Thanks for listening on behalf of everybody at the Legal Talk Network.
If you'd like more information about what you've heard today, please visit LegalTalkNetwork.com. Subscribe via iTunes and RSS. Find us on Twitter and Facebook, or download our free Legal Talk Network app in Google Play and iTunes. The views expressed by the participants of this program are their own and do not represent the views of, nor are they endorsed by, Legal Talk Network, its officers, directors, employees, agents, representatives, shareholders, and subsidiaries. None of the content should be considered legal advice. As always, consult a lawyer.